Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's 12:30, so we'll get started. Welcome today to our export webinar. And so I'd like to welcome you all and thank you very much for joining us. Just to let you know that this session is being recorded today. So after we finish, it will be uploaded to our IoD YouTube channel, and this will be circulated. And anybody that is unfortunately unable to attend, we can circulate that around as well. And I'd introduce you shortly to David Bone, who will be leading the webinar today. So David, he's been working in international trade for over 25 years now, and he's also a chartered director and a fellow of the IoD, so brings a bit of everything to today. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to David. Thank you very much.
Cassie, thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning for me, actually, because I'm actually calling you from Connecticut in the USA, where I'm over here doing some business with some clients of mine. So a truly international flavor to what we've got today. So forgive the background. This is actually my hotel room that I've been staying in. So hope we have a good thing. The connection's okay and everything's good for you. So today we are going to look at a 6-question strategy to international business. Now, this is going to be a fairly quick rapid fire session. We've got an hour to cover quite a lot of ground, but it should give you lots of things to think about and lots of things to ponder and develop with your thinking. And another way you might want to look at this is this might be considered to be 6 key decisions for effective export leaders. Now, my background basically is I've run a range of SMEs over a number of years, and all of those have traded internationally. I also run with one of your members actually in the East of England, Ian West. We run a business called Export Savvy, and with that business, we deliver export support and training to a range of SMEs. And in fact, over the last 5 years, we've delivered export training to over 17,000 SMEs in the UK via various programs. So we've met lots of exporters, we've heard lots of opinions, and we've seen how lots of different people do it. And the great thing about being a small business, and some of you will be small businesses and some of you may be slightly larger, but with a small business, is basically there are no rules, you know, per se. There are a few statutory things you have to do, but basically you can fundamentally do whatever you want to do. You can have an idea in the morning and by the afternoon you're doing it. So this little webinar is all about stimulating that thinking, taking those great ideas that you've got floating around in your head and trying to help you to organize them in a way to get the best out of the business. So as Cassie said, I'm a chartered director, very proud of that, and work closely with the IoD. And if any of you are thinking of doing any of the IoD training courses, I would personally highly recommend them because I got a huge amount out of them when I went through that. Now, this is a webinar, which is a bit tricky because I can't chat to any of you, but if you do have any questions as we go on, please put them in the Q&A section, okay, that you see as we go through, not the chat, the Q&A. But, you know, any thoughts, observations, comments, please put them in the chat, in the Q&A. I put use chat there, I actually mean use Q&A. Put it in the Q&A and we'll have a look at them and address them as we go along. And I will be staying online for about half an hour after the webinar finishes to answer any particular questions that you may have. So I'd like to start off with a quick poll. Okay, let's have an idea of what's going on. So the first thing I'd just like to think about is this question: is as a business leader, what is it that you would like to achieve? So I'm just going to ask you if you wouldn't mind participating in this little poll that you see coming up in front of you now. So have a quick look at that and then we'll move forward from there. Thank you very much. So a load of you participated there. Thank you very much indeed. Well, you can see the results. I'll just give you the results here. I can see the number of you are looking to grow your businesses. That's fantastic. Business security, that's meaning that the business carries on, sustainable, very good. Increasing the value of the business, 70% of you. attracting investment for 40% of you, and removing barriers to growth is 40%. Now, the good news is we're going to talk about all of those things today. So we're not just really going to talk about international trade. We're going to look at how exporting can help you to achieve all of those individual things. Right, let's have another quick one, if we may. And I'd just like to get a bit of a flavour for who's in the group. So a very quick one, very simple one here. Do you currently export? Yes or no? Okay, brilliant. So we've got literally an even result, more or less, here. So 50% of you are exporting and 50% of you are not. So just to quickly let you know, if you are exporting, this webinar will be relevant to you because we will be covering a range of things that will help you to think about what you're doing and maybe adjust those things to optimize your business. If you're not exporting, this will give you a great introduction, and it will give you a really good framework within which to develop your thinking, I hope, and that should all be really good. Right, let's have a look at another poll now. Don't worry, it's not all going to be all polls. I'm just trying to get a flavor of who's here, so when I'm talking, that would be really good. Now, as a business leader, and you're obviously directors, what makes you effective? Okay, as a business leader, what do you think makes you effective? Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much all for participating in these. It's really helpful. So 80% of you say vision is very important. Good, we're going to have a good look at that. Confidence clearly is quite an important thing, but only 30% of you think it's high on the list. But, you know, it depends how that makes you feel. Clear direction from 50% of you, maximizing opportunity from 60%, and minimizing risk. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for participating in those polls. Very much appreciated. Now, don't forget, if you have any thoughts at all as we go through, please give us your thoughts. But one thing I wouldn't mind you just putting into the Q&A now, if you get the chance, is what leadership challenges might you or do you face as you export? So let's look specifically at that. You know, what leadership challenges might you or do you face specifically when you are exporting? So any thoughts you've got on that, please put those into the Q&A, and I'll have a look at those as we go through, and I'll try and make sure that I cover off all the things that we do. You don't have to put them all in now, but if anything occurs to you as we go through and you kind of, there are challenges that you're facing, please let us know. Great. Okay, so I'd like to start just with a very simple thing, and that is, you know, what is an effective export leader? Well, I've worked with lots of people that are trading overseas, and I would say that there are really two key aspects to the leaders that I see that are very effective. The first is that good leaders tend to inspire their team, you know, really get your team on board. And the second thing is you make good decisions to build a strong business model that works. So the way that you will inspire them, of course, is with vision and direction. So having an idea of where you're going and why you're doing it is a very important part of leading your team into international markets. And, you know, giving them a good reason, because, you know, they're going to be met with a number of challenges. And why are they doing this? It's great. It's a really important thing to think of. And then you might want to think about, well, what are good decisions? You know, I've said make good decisions. Well, good decisions tend to be decisions that are informed and appropriate. So, you know, how do you get the information? How do you get the understanding and make the right decisions rather than just be shooting from the hip? And, you know, as entrepreneurs, and any of you who are entrepreneurial directors, it's a bit of a challenge, this, because we have a tendency as entrepreneurs to do things very sort of spontaneously. And sometimes just stopping and stepping back and having a little think can save us an awful lot of time, money, and effort and dare I say it, stress. So that's something to do. And then I said to build a strong business model. So basically, you know, you're going to make informed decisions, but from those informed decisions, you're going to build a strong international business model. What is that? Well, really, we define a strong business model as meeting 4 criteria. So what you want to be looking at is a business model that's scalable. In other words, it can grow. It's sustainable, which means that that growth is maintainable. You know, you can maintain that growth as you go through. It's profitable, which means it makes money. And making money is not just for shareholder value, but also to roll back into the business to invest and grow. And finally, this last one is a bit of a sort of, I suppose, topical one at the moment, flexible, because to move into international markets, you are going to have to invest. You're going to have to invest time. You might have to invest capital if that's what you've got available, but certainly time and things like that. But what happens if things start to go wrong? What happens if the market doesn't quite work out? Well, you need to be in a position to retreat. So it's always good to have a model that's a bit flexible and doesn't lead you into markets with too many tied down overheads and various other things that are frightening like that. So the way we're going to look at this today is we're going to cover these 6 key decisions. And what I'm going to suggest to you, excuse me, I'm just going to take a little slurp of water here. What I'm going to suggest to you is that if you make these 6 key decisions, it will give you this great framework within which to move the business forward. So let's have a look at what those are. So the first thing we're going to look at is why. This is your vision. This is the thing that you will really instill everyone. Why are you doing this? What are you trying to achieve? And also, why is it worth investing your time, money, and efforts into international trade when you could just be trading in the UK? So we're going to have a look at some reasons for that. Only high-level reasons, but it'll get you thinking. Secondly, we're going to look at what. It's very important. What is it you're going to sell overseas? What does your offer look like? Is it going to be the same as it is in the UK, or is it going to be completely different? And I know so many people that go into overseas markets and don't change their offer. They've got an amazing product or service, but it's just positioned completely wrongly. Okay. And I say product or service because it doesn't matter whether you're selling a physical product or a service. All of this is relevant. So, you know, a really good example is that if you were selling umbrellas here in the UK, actually here in the United States, I'm just looking out the window and it's absolutely pouring down with rain. So if you were selling umbrellas, say here or in the UK, your lead sales message would be about rain and about staying dry. Whereas if you were selling those same umbrellas in Dubai, your lead sales message would be completely different. It would be about keeping the sun off of you. Now, that's a very simplistic view, but you get where I'm going with that. So think about your offer. Is your offer relevant to the market you're going into? And does it need adjusting? Number 3, where? Where are the best marketplaces? You know, it's a big old world out there and you've only got limited resources to tackle it. So, you know, where do you want to go? Where are you going to get the best return for, you know, for your buck? And how are you going to find out about that? So that's very important. Then we're going to look at with what resources. Do you have the resources to sustainably grow your business in overseas markets? What resources do you need? Then the next question, question 5, is how? What does your international business model look like? You know, what is the best way for you to shape your business to maximize this business overseas? And finally, who is it you're going to work with? How do you find great international partners or people to help you to move into these international markets? Now, don't forget, apologies, I've got chat there again, but type any questions or comments into the Q&A as we go, and I'll have a look at those as we go along. So let's start with question number 1, why export? Now, please understand, this is going to be very high level and very quick, but just make notes of anything that you feel is appropriate. And we are going to give you the opportunity to develop your thinking at the end of this webinar. Excuse me 1 minute. Terrible frog in my throat. There we go. Too much good American food, I think, but I think that's what's causing it. Right. Okay. So why export? Your rationale. Now, here are 10 great reasons for exporting. You know, it is a fantastic thing. I have never run a business of my own where I have not traded in international markets. Quite simply because for me, the international markets always seem to be better here in the UK. The UK is a very developed marketplace. It's a highly competitive marketplace. And it's quite tricky to get a foothold here or to really develop things. Where you go into many overseas markets, you've got more customers, you've got more suitable customers that might be better for your product or service. So why spend time selling to less suitable customers in the UK? There might be less competition in these markets because they're less developed and less advanced. Maybe seasonal offset's good for you. You know, you sell lots of stuff in the summer, but you don't sell it for the rest of the year, or lots of stuff at Christmas time, but you don't sell it for the rest of the year. So how can you offset that seasonality? What about spreading risk? You know, by going into other markets, you're kind of helping yourself if one economy starts to go down, like the UK economy starts to go down, and unfortunately, the outlook doesn't look great at the moment. How do we spread that risk and move things around? You might want to be building brand value, you know, to sell the business. An international brand that's done well tends to be more valuable than just a UK brand. Here's a good one. You might want to make the business more attractive to employees. At the moment, it's really difficult to attract great talent. So if you have an exciting business that's trading in international markets and you're getting your employees involved with that, that is a highly, highly attractive thing for someone that's looking for work. You might want to make the business more attractive to investors. Many of you said you want to get investment, and this will certainly do that. You might want to get into business into higher profitability. Yes, believe it or not, you can get more profits overseas than you can in the UK. Lots of people think you get less, but actually you can get more if you set the business up correctly. And you might just want better cash flow. I've run a range of businesses overseas, and my cash flow has been much, much better in my overseas markets than it has here in the UK. Now, can you think of any other reasons why you might want to export? And if you can, please type them into the Q&A and share them with me, and then I can mention them a little bit later on. That would be really good. So let's do a quick poll now. And another quick poll. Let's think about why might you want to export? Okay, so we're going to have a little look at why you might want to export and see what might be good for you. Let's have a quick look at this one. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for participating in that. Let's just have a look at what some of you have said. So 56% of you said you're looking for more customers. Well, there's certainly they're out there. 11% of you said you're looking for more suitable customers. I'm really a little bit surprised that that number's not higher, because in my experience, by looking for the right type of customers and profiling your customers, quite often customers overseas are more suitable than they are here in the UK. Less competitions for 11% of you. 11% of you have said seasonal offset. 11% also said spreading the risk. Building brand value seems to be popular. So quite clearly, there's some people here that are looking for investment or looking to get ultimate investment by maybe doing things like that and attracting business money into the business, and to make the business more attractive to employees. I can't stress enough how good that is. And so if it's something you haven't thought about before, you might want to consider it. So thank you very much for participating in that. Have a little think about some of those points that I made. Okay, good. So let's have a little bit of a sort of summary of what we just said. And what I'm going to say to you, the conclusion is this: by understanding why you're exporting and how you can get value from trading overseas. You can give your team common goals, and collectively you can shape your business model to deliver. That's definitely one really good thing about understanding why. There is another reason as well, though, because you are going to have to, as a business leader, invest some resources into this international trade stuff. And you might be questioning yourself as to, firstly, how much resource are you going to give it? And secondly, is it worth giving the resource at all? So if that's the case, then by really understanding what you can get out of it, you can justify your resource allocation to your international trade activity. And not just justify it to yourself, but justify it to your colleagues. So my suggestion is, if you are thinking of exporting overseas and you want to motivate yourself to invest in that business in all sorts of ways, whether it be in terms of time or in terms of cash or whatever it may be, give yourself some reason for doing that. Understand what value you're going to get from trading overseas. And the reason I say that is because then when it gets a little bit tough, and all business gets tough, whether you're trading in the UK or overseas, you won't be tempted just to pull your resources, which is what people tend to do, because they just think, oh, we'll just close down and move back into the UK again. So my suggestion would be you really do give this question some thought, and it is amazing what you can come up with. Don't forget, any questions you've got, type them into the Q&A. Right, let's look at the second question. Now, I mentioned this one to you earlier on. What is it you're going to sell? And what I'm suggesting is that what you sell in your overseas markets really might not be the same as what you are selling here in the UK. And I just want to give you some little things to think about. Because here's the thing, if you go into a market with an offer that is not aligned with the market, it becomes very hard work, and the number of business owners I've heard, and remember, we've trained over 17,000 of them, but the number I've heard that have said to me, oh, our offer's a no-brainer. I just don't understand why people are not taking it. And the reason is, when we really stop and look at it, is because what they're offering the market is not what the market wants. They can actually deliver what the market wants, but that's not the message that they're putting across. Now, there are lots of reasons for adjusting your market overseas, and I'm just going to be touching on the very top, but this is definitely a subject that I would highly recommend as directors of your business that you spend some time looking at. And it all starts with the customer. And this is something that many people overlook, because ultimately you are trying to sell something to someone. So it's about keeping your customer happy. It's about being internationally competitive. Okay, so when you're starting with the customer, you might want to be looking at the customers in those markets and asking them these questions, or asking yourself these questions. Firstly, why will they buy what it is that you're selling? Now, remember what I said earlier on. Someone in Manchester, or anywhere in the UK, I'm not just picking on Manchester, but somewhere in the UK would buy an umbrella to keep the rain off them. Someone in Dubai would buy that same umbrella for keeping the sun off them. So very different sales messages, but exactly the same product. If I go to Dubai and try and sell them umbrellas to keep rain off them, unless it's one of those days when it's very rarely when it's raining, they're just not even going to bite on it. So, think about that carefully. Secondly, what will they buy? What are they actually buying from you? And this is something that we really miss. I hear lots of engineering businesses or service businesses or software businesses. And what they tend to do is go overseas and describe their product. That's not what the customer's buying. The customer's buying results. And are you really clearly articulating those results to that customer? Thirdly, how will they buy? How do they actually want to buy from you? Okay. And, what are they considering when they're buying from you? Do they want to see someone face to face? Are they going to buy over the internet? We're very advanced in this country, for example, in e-commerce. Not all markets are at that stage yet. So, you might want to be thinking about how they're actually buying things and choosing a route to market that aligns with your customers' expectations. Very important, the next one, when will they buy? You can offer a product at the wrong time and they just won't buy it. You can offer that same product 6 months later when it's an appropriate buying window, and they will. You would have seen this time and time again in the UK. So just stop and think about that overseas. When is it they're going to buy this stuff? And finally, the ultimate question, why might they not buy? So really think about what it is that your customers want. Now, I'm a big fan of this. The next thing is it's all about the profit. And the real question I'm going to be asking you is this: are you selling the high value of your offering overseas? You don't have to sell the whole offer like you do in the UK. Maybe you pick out what we might call the sexy bit, the bit in the middle, the bit that really makes the money, the bit that is really valuable in your business. And you sell that bit into the market and you let the market add value to that. It's a bit like Coca-Cola do this brilliantly. So Coca-Cola sell the brand and the syrup. They don't sell the bottles. They don't sell the carbonated water. They don't sell any of that. That's all added in the territory that they go to. So the question is, how could you do that? Can you just sell the high value and let the lower value stuff be done overseas? Next thing, is your pricing correct? So many people that we've seen over the years just charge the same in the UK as they do overseas, and it's not always appropriate. And by the way, if you think that you have to do that, you absolutely do not. It's how you position your brand in an overseas market. And when you go overseas, you're different. You're a British business going into an overseas market. That says something. And by the way, in many of your sectors, Britain has a very good reputation for delivering high quality. Here, you're just one of everyone else. So you might want to position yourself pricing differently. And by the way, think about this carefully. If you were to add 10% to all of your prices, okay, and you're making a 10% net profit in your business, by adding 10% to all of your prices, you will double your net profit. So that's how serious this is. So is your pricing correct? Are you charging enough? And finally, is your offer easy to distribute and to deliver, or is it costing you a lot of money to do that? Can you do it differently to reduce those third-party costs? I'm only touching on these things to get you thinking about them. Remember, you can revisit this webinar afterwards, and we will also be sending you the slides to have a look at. Great. So can you think of any other key considerations when shaping your international offer? So if you can, please put them into Q&A. It's always good to see what it is that we can get from that. So please do that. Okay, so Lorraine, you've written a couple of things in the Q&A. Thank you very much. You were saying earlier on in the why section, concern about exporting, understanding how taxes work in other countries in the United States, where I can find resources and people to demystify these matters. There is a lot of help out there, Lorraine, for people to do this. One thing I'm going to say to all of you, and this is a brand new thing, I don't think any of you will know about this yet, but Santander Bank are just about to release a fantastic new initiative called Export Navigator, and they will be able to provide a lot of those services for you. Also, Department for International Trade, in my experience, have generally historically been very good. Nick, you've asked how exporting improves cash flow. Does it not reduce it? No, it doesn't, because the reason is, Nick, that there are a number of ways you can improve your cash flow with export. So if you think about where your cash is, the reason you don't have cash flow is because it will be either tied up with customers, it will be tied up in overheads, or it will be tied up in stock holding. Those tend to be the classic reasons as to why cash flow is difficult. And also, it might be tied up because your margins are not good enough. Now, by remodeling your business in an overseas market, you can get rid of all those things. And by the way, I have a lot of experience of this. I've owned engineering businesses that have sold to some of the biggest companies in the world, and we've never given a penny of credit. Okay. Now you might say, well, that's impossible, that wouldn't work. But the reason for that is because we do our business through distributors. Okay. The distributors then, we sell directly to the distributors who pay us on the nose. We give no credit. The distributors then take the credit hit with the customer. That's their line. I wouldn't risk taking credit terms, giving credit terms to an overseas customer. I've never done it. And they don't really expect you to in the same way that they would here in the UK. Secondly, stock holding might be an issue for you. You know, you might have to hold a fair bit of stock. Well, again, if you have distributors, you can distribute that stock throughout your distributor network. I had an engineering business, not a massive engineering business, but we turned over £6 million, which is, you know, a fair size. And we ran that business on just £25,000 worth of stock, and we never gave a penny of credit. And that rapidly improved our cash flow. And by the way, we got better margin for our products overseas as well. So thank you for that one, Nick. That was really good. Lorraine, you said, I already have an American counterpart with whom I know I can work with. We are considering setting up a social enterprise for a global marketplace. Our offering will be a mixture of conferences and products. The products will come from multiple sources. Is there a simple way to do this? There could well be. It just depends what it is that you're trying to achieve. But the very important thing, Lorraine, is you're very clear about what the business model looks like. And, you know, there's, again, I'll give you some more thinking things later on after this session, and you can have a look. But yes, I think that's good. The only thing I would be very careful of, if any of you are, and I'm actually in the States at the moment, if you are thinking of doing business with Americans, please understand they do think very differently to us when it comes to business. They may seem very Anglophile, but they are not at all. So tread carefully with whatever relationships you build with them. That's one thing I would say, but there's plenty of support for that. Matthew, not a question, a comment. When considering pricing, also be sure to consider currency. Some countries will not let you export currency freely now, nor they make acquisitions of dollars, euros, pounds easily. This can be dealt with via specialist finance arrangements, but can cost 10% plus of the total sum. Matthew, thank you. Very good point to make there. So have a think about that, everybody. Akiko, thank you for your comment here. You've said it seems difficult to choose marketing methods appropriate to each territory's market. It does, Akiko, and this is another value of having distributors in overseas markets. You can get real value out of your distributors if you work with them to do the marketing. And although you're giving the margin, your overheads will be significantly lower, and it will work well. I think it's a big subject, but you can. My recommendation with international marketing is that you find local people within the territories to do that. Hope that was useful. Thank you for putting those things in the Q&A, everyone. It's really really good. That's absolutely brilliant. Right, okay, let's move on and have a look at some other things. So let's do a quick poll. What are you considering then when internationalizing your offer? What are you considering when internationalizing your offer? Let's have a look at this and see what you think. Thank you very much, everyone. That's really good. Some interesting results there from a number of you. Let's have a quick look at what you've got. So we've got 63% of you have said that you want to consider why customers will use a product or service in the country. Delighted to hear that. That's a really important thing to be thinking about. Localization and cultural alignment, incredibly important. So once again, great that 63% of you are looking at that. Language, yes, again, very important. You've got to be able to communicate properly. Shipping and convenience is 25%. I'm a little bit surprised that only 38% of you are considering customer experience, because in my book, and I'm going to talk about this more, this is the thing that sets you aside from it. If you are not delivering a world-class customer experience, you're not in the game. So that is something, if some of you are not considering customer experience, I would highly, highly recommend that you do think about that. And it is something that I will touch on a bit later. And local standards are something else, and local legal requirements also something else, that 50%, and pricing 75%. I'm really glad 75% of you are thinking about pricing. Absolutely delighted. Thank you very much. That's really good to see what you're all thinking about in that area. So let's have a little conclusion here. By slightly adjusting your offer for each country, you can make more sales at a higher profit. So rather than just stick the same thing out to everyone and just do whatever, it's much better to think about it country by country and think about how you're going to make these things work and how much money you can make with them. Just one of the quick things, I thought I'd give you an example where I say that you can do pricing differently in different countries. There are a number of people over the years that have said to me, well, you can't do that because people just go on the internet and find it. People don't behave in that way. You might get a few, but the vast majority won't. And a really good example of a retail product, just a standard retail product that charge much more for their product overseas than they do here in the UK, is Clark's shoes. If anyone has ever gone to buy Clark's shoes in the USA or France, you will find they are a premium product, much more so than they are here in the UK. And they'll be sort of 40, 50% more expensive. They are known as Clark's of England, by the way, in France, but you know, they are definitely positioning themselves differently in overseas markets. And of course, the quality is good enough for them to do that. Don't forget to type any questions you may have into the Q&A. Still very happy to answer those. Now, interestingly, the next question is where. So I said that it's important to focus on the market and deliver your product into the market appropriately to align your product with what that particular market wants. Well, this is where the where comes in, because one of the things that we see a lot when we're working with companies that export is that they basically just go all over the world. Now, I can speak from experience of this. I had a company and we were exporting to 80 countries around the world, 80 countries. And I was very proud of this. I used to stand in the pub with my friends or whenever I saw them socially, and I would say, oh, exporting to 80 countries. And at the time, the business was turning over about 2 million. And one of my friends very carefully pointed out to me one night when we were chatting, and he's always been a great mentor to me. He said, well, that's great. You're trading in 80 countries around the world, but you're only turning over 1 million. You can't be doing very much in any of them. And he was absolutely right. We were just throwing a load of mud at the wall and seeing what stuck. And it was a highly ineffective strategy. And it is a highly ineffective strategy for most people. What we find is the businesses that tend to succeed more are the ones that focus on individual territories and make them work. Okay. Now, quick tip for any of you who are thinking of trying to get investment into your business or who might ultimately want to sell their business. When an investor puts money into a business, and I don't know if any of you have had experience of this, some of you may be very experienced, and forgive me, I'm not in any way trying to lecture you. I'm just trying to point something out. When an investor puts money into a business, the reason they do that is because they want to grow the business. They invest in potential, okay? So if you're an investor and you're looking at a business and they're trading in 80 countries around the world and doing just a little bit of business in each one, but not really tackling any of them effectively, are you going to be as comfortable as if you go to a company where they're trading in just three countries, but the model is working really well. And they've created a proof of concept for what they do. And you can take that proof of concept and you can multiply that across the world. That's what you call potential. So if you are thinking of looking for investment or moving things forward, this section is particularly important for you. But it's important even if you're not doing that, because the reality is, if you're just throwing mud against the wall and seeing what sticks, will you do some business? Yes, but it's going to be more down to luck than judgment, which is not a great way for you to move forward. So the value of focus is extremely important. And I just want you to think about that as you move forward with the business. And there are some key considerations to think about when you go into markets. Where are the best customers? Where can you find them? You know, do they want what you're offering or not, as the case may be? Do they have the means to buy what you're offering? And how easy is it to do business in that country or territory? Now, there is a lot of help available to help you to choose markets. Department of International Trade are particularly good at this, and they will help you. But, you know, it's a really important thing to do that. And there is a little system that you can use to do that will help you. Now, can you think of any other key considerations when choosing markets? And if you can, please put them into the Q&A, and that will help us think about those. So there's a simple approach to choosing best markets. The first is design your ideal market. Think about what a perfect market would look like, nirvana, if you like, the market that would just be brilliant for your product. What are the characteristics of that perfect marketplace? And then choose some markets to go into. Now, you might have a gut feel. You might be saying, you know what, I want to trade in this market over here because I reckon they'll be really good. And there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing I'm going to ask you to do is to clarify and qualify that those markets are good. Don't just jump into them. Do a bit of research, okay? And once you've done your research, match your new markets to your research and your ideal market profile and see if the markets that you feel are good are actually good. Do they meet those ideal market criteria? Now, major tip for you, anyone, if you are trading in overseas markets, do not go for the biggest markets. They are not necessarily the best because you only want a smidgen of the business, most of you. Now, it might be that if there's any corporate people here, there may be a different conversation to be had, but certainly for small, medium-sized businesses, they tend to focus better because big markets are highly competitive, okay? Big markets are logistically difficult to work in. I know so many people that want to do business in the USA, and it is a very hard market to do business in for all sorts of reasons. The reason I'm sitting here in this hotel room here today is because I'm sorting out a lot of problems with the client that I'm working with. They've set something up and it's just not worked. So thankfully, we know what we're doing now. We've really clarified the way we're going to move this forward, and I think they will do some business. But they got off on completely the wrong foot. You know, they were promised the earth by the distributors and nothing was delivered. So now we've really got that tied down. But, you know, these big markets are not necessarily great. So think about taking that 4-step simple approach. And by choosing the best markets, you will make more sales for less effort. So it's definitely something that is worth you doing. But don't forget, please type any questions that you have, not into chat, I'm afraid, into the Q&A. That will be really, really good. Okay, so please do pop any questions that you've got into the Q&A, and I'll be very, very happy to answer them. Good. Okay, so let's move on to the next key of our key decisions. This is number 4 of the 6, and this is with what? This is the resources. What resources have you got to work on international trade? Now, I know lots of people who have wanted to go into export and have not done so because they've looked at me and they've said, well, we just haven't got the resources to do it. You know, we need an awful lot to do this. Look, the reality is you don't, okay? You don't really need a lot of resources. It just depends how you structure your international business model. You know, I've seen micro businesses trade into international markets before they do anything in the UK, frequently, by the way, because the market was better, but they just have to think about how they use their resources. But one thing I can tell you is that if you go into export and you don't resource it, you just play with it. Don't be surprised if you don't get results. It's got nothing to do with the fact that the export is no. It means that you haven't applied any focus to it. And exactly the same would happen if you were trading here in the UK. You know, if you did not apply any focus to it, it's unlikely you would do any business. So you can't just kind of throw it out there and hope that it works. I mean, reality is some people are lucky and some people do get lucky with that sort of thing, but it is very, very rare for that to happen. So my suggestion is that when you are thinking of exporting, you think about resourcing it adequately. You think about having resources, and you also think about, is what you're doing sustainable? In other words, is it going to put the business into a high risk situation, or are you going to run out of resources as your business progresses? Okay, so it's definitely something that you should be thinking about. So resources are very, very important in that. Just quick thing that's gone into the Q&A here from Lorraine. Lorraine, thank you very much for contributing to that. We're just quickly going back to choosing markets, and Lorraine has made an observation. She said she considers considerations for choosing market location. She's chosen countries with English as their first language. I think it's a really sensible first step, and it does make life an awful lot easier. But do remember, just because people speak English, and this is the important thing, it does not mean they behave like us, and it does not mean the market is the same. But I think it's a brilliant starting point. But thank you very much for letting us know that, Lorraine. That's really good. Don't forget, if any of you, the rest of you, have got anything you want to add into the Q&A, please do. That will be really, really good. Okay, now when you're thinking about your resources, you want to be thinking probably about 4 things. Okay, have you got the skills to go into the marketplace that you want to go into? Okay, secondly, and this is a big one, have you got the time? Have you got the time? Because if you haven't got the time, then it's going to be quite difficult for you to do it. Thirdly, have you got enough plant? In other words, enough equipment? And finally, do you have enough cash or working capital? Okay, so I want you to think a little bit about that. But here's the thing, and it's just something I want you to think about. You do not have to provide all of these things yourselves. And the beauty of working in international trade is that you have an opportunity to reinvent your business model, to use other people's resources to deliver what you have. If you have an amazing product, there are people out there that want to sell it, and they will invest in that sales process. They will invest in the marketing. They will invest in the understanding of the marketplace. And I've seen this time and time and time again. But you've got to set the relationship up so that you know what skills you need. You know, it might be that your business relies on a face-to-face sale. And you think, well, there's no way I can travel around the world or even travel to 1 or 2 countries and do this face-to-face sale. So can you find other people to do that for you with appropriate skills? Almost certainly. And I've seen work with companies that have a highly technical sale, and they've been able to make that sale through third parties. You know, if you don't have time to go and visit the markets, how can you get a presence in that market? All these sorts of things are very, very important. So I'm going to just do a couple of quick polls with you, and I'm going to ask you 2 questions about your resources. Firstly, I'd like you to think about your business generally. What resource challenges might you face as your business grows? Now, that's whether you're trading overseas or in the UK. And secondly, do you think that exporting will take more resources from your business? So let's have a quick look at these couple of polls and see what we do. So what resource challenges might you face as your business grows? Now, please remember, this is just grows anyway, regardless of whether you're doing export. This is not what resource challenges will you have with export. This is what resource challenges will you have generally in your business. Any more for any more? Lovely. Thank you for doing this. It's great. A number of you are contributing. Great. That's fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so let's look at what we've got here then. So we've got 50% of you say that working capital and cash can be a challenge. Okay. 75% of you say you might have a skills shortage. 25% saying growing premises can be tricky. And 25% of you say production and delivery capacity might be an issue as you move forward. Now, what I can tell you, and I can't tell you how today because we just got a lot of stuff to cover in a short space of time, but I can categorically tell you, and I'm making a statement that I know is true because I've done it so many times with people, you can remove any one of those barriers to growth by working in international trade. By remodeling your business to trade overseas appropriately, you can remove those barriers to your growth. And that's the wonderful thing about export. And it's actually one of the primary reasons why many of certainly my clients trade overseas, to remove barriers to growth, to make their business more scalable and sustainable. Okay, so it's definitely worth thinking about. Okay, let's just do one more quick poll then. Remember what I said earlier on. Do you think that exporting will take up more of your resources than trading in the UK? Thank you. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for sharing those thoughts with us. So we've got 13% of you say that yes, you think it will. And by the way, it might. It just depends how you structured your exports and how you're doing it. I'm really delighted to see 50% of you don't think it will, because, you know, in my experience, it doesn't. Now, that's not always the case. I'm not saying the person that said, you know, yes is wrong. It depends on the circumstances. And, you know, a few of you, 38% of you, are not sure. So it's definitely something to think about. You know, how do you use export to remove those barriers to growth? Quite an important thing to consider. And what you've got to remember is that if you run out of resources, your business will just grind to a halt. So it's very important to think about how you will get sustainability in your business as it grows. Okay, so a bit of a conclusion then about this. By recognizing barriers to growth and resource challenges, you can use export to redesign your business model to remove them. So it's a very good thing to think about, and it's a great reason to trade overseas. Don't forget to put any questions that you've got, you know, into, it's not chat, forgive me, I forgot to change that on there. It's actually the Q&A. So put any questions you've got into the Q&A. Right, now let's look at key decision 5, how. What does your business model look like when you're trading overseas? Now, it might well be that, having considered all the things that we've been talking about in those first 4 questions, that this question is appropriate for you. Is your business model still suitable? Okay, is it something that works? I mean, here's the thing. Does your business model look like this? Pretty good, huh? Pretty quick, pretty slick, you know, technologically brilliant. I mean, what, you know, if your business model was the epitome of that, surely you'd be very, very happy. Well, you would, of course, until you come across this. And all of a sudden, your Ferrari doesn't look so good, does it? You might really want a business model that looks more like this. So start to think about whether your business model that you have in the UK, or indeed overseas, is suitable. Is it really doing what it should do? Is it really delivering things back? Now, this is where I'd like to touch again on a point that I made earlier on, because I do think this point is so, so important. And that is it delivering a world-class customer experience? Your business model should deliver a world-class customer experience. And this is where many businesses fall down in their international trade environment. The fact is, customers buy an offer from you, okay? But that offer is not just your product or service, it's the way that that is delivered. You know, the question I could ask many of you is, how many of you buy from Amazon? And I would imagine a number of you probably do. And I would also imagine, and I could be wrong, but I would imagine that the main reason you do is because it's easy, and because you know what you're getting, and because it's safe, and because you can send things back easily. It's got nothing to do with the product or service that you're buying, and probably nothing to do with the price either. So can you deliver a world-class customer experience? A really good example of this would be people that sell engineering solutions, okay? And when what they forget about is that that engineering has to have technical support around it. Or people that deliver software solutions, but that software has to have support around it. It has to be applied to the business. It's not just selling a package of software, it's how the customer uses it. Are you equipped to do that in an overseas market? It's easy to sell a package when it's not, but is the customer comfortable that it's being applied in the right way? You know, if you're delivering a service, how are you going to deliver that service? Can you do it remotely? Is it appropriate? Do you need to go and visit the customer? What is it that you've got to think about? And I hope you can see this slide. It's a little bit small, but this is the customer experience cycle. And the fact is that as a modern business, you should be making this part of your offer, and you should be delivering service, and you should be delivering value at every touch point. You know, are you delivering value at the point that the customer first becomes aware of your product or service? Are you delivering value and a great experience when they purchase your service or your goods? Are you delivering value when they receive it? Do they receive it in the best way? When they use it and start to apply it into the business? When they maintain it? Or ultimately when they dispose of it? Are you able to deliver great customer experience in all of those areas? Because truthfully, if you're not really globally competitive. So your business model should have the ability to deliver value in every single one of those areas. And that's what I would like you to think about if you want to be truly international with your approach. Finally, remember, does your business model pass the litmus test? Is your business scalable? Is it sustainable? Is it profitable? And is it flexible? So those are questions you might want to ask yourself. So the exciting thing is that every time you go into a new market, you have the opportunity to reinvent your business model and remove barriers to growth just by thinking about where those barriers might be, what you need in the market, and think about how you can apply them. And there are two things I just want to help you to think about with this. The first is that you can reinvent your business model to unlock your cash. This is something that was mentioned earlier on. So where is your cash? Well, it could be with customers, it could be with stock, it could be with capital plant, or it could be with overheads. And if you know where your cash is locked up, you can reinvent your business model to take away the cash from the customers, to take away the stock holding or reduce your stock holding, to reduce your amount of capital plant you need, and to reduce the amount of overheads that you need to run the business. Now, I've done this many times. It just requires some leadership and some thought. So here's our conclusion. Exporting gives you the opportunity to redesign your business model to maximize business potential and remove barriers to growth. Don't forget, any questions, type them into the Q&A. Right, let's look at the final one of our 6 key decisions. We're running a little bit over time, but it's not a problem, because what I was saying was I was going to allow half an hour for questions, but we dip 5 minutes into that. That's not really a problem at all. So here we are then. In terms of 6 key decisions, the final one is who with, and this is your international partners. Who might you work with to help you to build your international business? Now, if you are thinking about having partners overseas, and for those of you that are a smaller business or even larger ones, I would highly recommend that you look at this possibility, because it really is a great way and a low risk way to move into international markets. But there are a number of things that you will want to think about when you are working with international partners. And all of these things that you can see on this list here, the current clients I'm working with did not really consider before they appointed the distributors that we're now working with. So we had to unpick an awful lot of things to get the most value out of them. I'm pleased to say we've done that because we have a structure, and now everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone understands how they're going to get value. And it's a big subject, managing agents and distributors, but it's a really great subject, and you can really get a lot of value out of these overseas partners if you really consider the way that you approach them. So you might want to be thinking about understanding what it is that you need from them. Think about your core competencies. Think about the things that you can't do and that you would like them to do. Okay? So that's a really good thing. Think internationally. Think differently when you are talking with them. Put yourself in their shoes. Culturally align yourself with the way that they want to do business. And finally, remember, if you want to grow your business overseas, you do not have to employ people. You can use partners, and it is a very low risk strategy, or a much lower risk strategy than adding an awful lot of overhead to your business as you grow. And here's a top tip. How about you think about overseas partners as investors? Now, I know that sounds a bit of a strange thing to say, but think about this. If an investor was to put some money into your business, what would you spend it on? Okay. You might spend it on stockholding. You might spend it on getting a new marketing person into the business. You might spend it on training your personnel. There's all sorts of things you might spend that money on. So if you can get your partners to spend their money on these things when you set this up, then they are doing the same as an investor would do. But also remember, and this is very, very important, and it's another top tip to add to this, is if they're investing, they want to see a return. So you've got to give them value back and help them to sell as much as they can. And the opening gambit of this meeting here in the US this week, when I sat with the board of directors of the current distributors that we're working with here, was we both want the same thing. Let's talk about how we're going to achieve that, because that's what it's about. And that the really great way to work with partners overseas is no us and them. It's a partnership. Okay. And that's really a great way to move things forward. Okay, so another quick poll then, just to keep us on our toes. In which areas would you like to develop your company's skill base? In which areas would you like to develop your company's skill base? Fantastic. Thank you again for participating, and thank you for participating in all of the polls we've had today. I think that's probably the last one we're going to do. So let's just have a quick look at this one. So, that's great. 63% of you want some marketing help. Sales, you'd like to develop your sales skills, 75% of you said. Fulfillment, 38%. Customer service, 63%. And technical support, 38%. These are all classic things that partners can do for you. Absolutely classic. And I see that none of you put product development, and that's fine, but you'll be amazed how they might contribute to that as well, just in conversation, not formally, but, you know, just in conversation. I know so many companies that have actually improved their products significantly by working with partners overseas. One company that's a high profile company is a really good example of this is Dyson. You know, when Dyson first bought their vacuum cleaners out, they were big clunky things. And they thought that the vacuum cleaners were going to be very popular in Japan. They were selling in other parts of the world, and they started to sell them in Japan, and they were really not making many sales at all. And then when they worked with the distributor out there and discussed why that was the case, the distributor said, well, simply, the units are too big. People don't have space here in Japan to store a vacuum cleaner of that size. So they consequently made their first small vacuum cleaner, which, by the way, went on to become their best global seller. So that's just a typical example of how a market can affect the way that you develop your products. And production's another thing. You know, it might well be that you move your production into overseas markets. And by the way, this is for services as well. The delivery of your services might well be done, part of your services might be done by third parties in the country. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. Don't forget, any questions you've got, please pop them into the Q&A. So, a conclusion on this final one. Exporting gives you the opportunity to develop a very strong team without significant direct investment. It also gives you the opportunity to secure investors, you see I'll put that in inverted commas, without giving away equity. So a few things to ponder there, I hope. Don't forget, anything you want to ask, please put it into the Q&A. Right, so let's recap very quickly then. We've got 6 key decisions for great export leaders. Why? Your rationale. Think about why you're doing this, what you want to get out of it, and you know, set the vision for the team. Secondly, what are you going to sell? Is your offer going to be the same as it is in the UK, or are you going to fine tune it and make more of those sales? That's what I would highly recommend. Thirdly, are you just going to trade anywhere, or are you going to choose the best markets that give you the best return and the best return on the efforts that you put in? Your resources, how are you going to resources? What resources do you need? And then finally, your business model is, you know, can you shape your business model to bring those resources into play? And finally, who is it that you're going to work with, and what value do you want from your international partners? Well, I really hope that you found that useful. Remember, we could only give you a very high level set of thinking today, and I hope it's got the old thought processes going. And it may well have posed a few more questions than it's given you answers at this stage. But that doesn't matter, because, you know, you guys are leaders. You guys will sit down and think about how you do this, because you will all do it differently, and you will all do it the way that you want to do it. So it may be now that you want to develop your thinking. And Lorraine, thank you very much for saying that you've learned a lot in the session, and I've got you thinking creatively. That's really, I'm absolutely delighted about that, because that's the whole point of this, to really take those great ideas that you've got in your head and really sort of make the most of them, you know, because, you know, you're all sort of entrepreneurial thinkers. So if you want to develop your thinking, Export Savvy, we can provide export leader development support for you. Okay, so if it is something that you might be interested in, we would be delighted to help you. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a very short film. So I'm going to try and stop sharing the screen just for 1 minute. So please just bear with me. And I am going to just share another screen with you. Okay. Hopefully you can all see a lady at the keyboard here. This is a very short film, just telling you a little bit about how we can help at Export Savvy. There we go. So that is just sort of some of the ways that we can help you. So if you do want to take your thinking and really develop it, we're very happy to support you with that. And so after this, you will be getting a circular, but Export Savvy can provide you with checklists, e-learning, personal coaching. There's all sorts of things that we can do to help you to develop your export skill base and perhaps think about your businesses slightly differently. Now, what we are going to do after this session is we are going to give you a free ebook, okay? Sorry, ignore the discount code thing there. That was I forgot. I meant to remove that because I copied this slide from another presentation. So please forgive me, that shouldn't be in there. But if you would like to receive the free ebook from us after the scenario, please type yes, not into the chat, into the Q&A. So if you would like to receive the free ebook after this session, covering the 6 key decisions that we've spoken about, please just go into the Q&A and type yes. As Cassie said, this presentation will be available to you again if you want to revisit it and look through it. We will also be sending you a circular after this that will help you to think about the ways you might want to approach this moving forward. So hopefully that has been useful and it's got your sort of thinking about things. I very much appreciate you all attending this. It's been absolutely great. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stay online for up to half an hour. It might be that you've all got plenty to think about now, and you don't really have any specific questions for me at this stage. But if you do have any questions, please type them into the Q&A, and I'll be very happy to stay here and answer them. If you are going to disappear now, completely understand, and I'd just like to thank you very much for taking the time out this morning from your busy schedules to join us. I hope that you found it useful, and I hope that you really enjoy your export experiences. I tell you, I've had so much fun over the years. I'm having fun at the moment, actually, here in the States, but I have had so much fun over the years working with international customers. And I really hope you enjoy that as well. So I'll stay here now. Any questions you've got, please feel free to type them into the Q&A, and I'll sit quietly until I get any questions through. Thank you very much. If any of you would like the ebook, please type yes into the Q&A, not into the chat, please, just into the Q&A, because that's the bit we're going to take all of our references from. So if you do want the ebook, please type yes into the Q&A.
Oh, big thank you, David. Just to quickly hop on and say, if anyone does want it and hasn't popped anything in Q&A, just let me know after when we do the follow-up, and I can always add your details in as well.
So guys, if any of you, if you don't have questions, please feel free just to drop off the webinar now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck with your exporting antics, as it were.
I think it's just you and me left now, David.
There we are. And then there were 2.
And then there were 2. Oh, that was really good. That was a really fab webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great.
And we've had some really good comments, and I think pretty much a full house with everybody wanting the ebook. So that, which is great. I'll pull all that information as well, so we can get all that kind of collated and things. But there's no hurry. We'll probably it'll be early kind of tomorrow if we do a little survey normally after an event, and then anything else we can send out early next week. So I know you're traveling and got a bit of a busy few days coming up. So
Yeah.
But no,
To be honest, that
brilliant.
would be fantastic for me, Cassie, because I can over the weekend I can get the stuff to you for the circular and for the ebook, and then you can yeah, you can send that through.
Yep, that's absolutely fine. Not a problem at all. But no, and thank you once again. That, I think that was brilliant, and I kind of kept an eye out, and I don't think anyone dropped off the whole way through. So I think you kept everyone very engaged, and you know, I'm not into any sort of trade or anything, but even I found it interesting. So it was no, it was really good.
Oh dear, you're not going to start doing eBay overseas now,
Oh, do you know, I get so frustrated with things like that on eBay. I'm going, oh, I can't be bothered. Everyone goes, oh, you should sell that. And I go, oh, I just can't be bothered with it. But I know I should. I know I should, especially in climate that we're in at the moment. It's awful, isn't it? But
Absolutely.
it's, what's it like
Actually,
over in the
thank you,
States?
and thank you so much for all your support. I'm sorry we had all this international shenanigans with it, but I suppose that kind of added a bit of